In today's world, a lot of folks say that they are more spiritual than religious, which is totally fair, as the past hundreds, thousands of years, religion has done a lot of harm. As someone who has came back to religion, I put in air quotes because I was a kid at church, and was really there for the candy and the cuties. and I left at such a young age because of the narrative that queer folks aren't allowed to be at church. But ironically, that narrative was never imposed on me. It was one that I saw in media somehow, or somehow was whispered in my ear, one way or another. But that's not the actual experience I had in my church. Being 12 years old, I can only imagine what it was like being an adult and seeing a little person who was just a little bit different than the rest of the kids. So when I say come back to, I wasn't ostracized, I wasn't isolated, I wasn't excluded. It was all from my own decision and processes of what the world has told me. And so now that I'm back, I say as a conscious adult, and realizing that I've gone through the world without any North Star, I was just lost for so long and didn't have parents to really turn to because they were busy working, immigrated to this country, being the youngest of 7 children, but they were at least 15 years older than me. And just really just finding my way, asking a lot of questions, being curious. And so I have found my way back, right, to being like, I need some sort of North Star. I need some sort of structure. I need some sort of discipline. And I've oftentimes been very disciplined. That's just my personality. But I was like, I need something to guide me. And so that's why when I come back to religion, for me, it's more about rhythms as opposed to religion. So when I think about prayer, when I think about meditation, when I think about community, when I think about showing up once a week somewhere, when I think about worship, when I think about all of these things that are very consistent in many religions, for me, I just went back to the one that made most sense to me, the one that I was exposed to first. And so me coming on here to share with you my process, as I'm about 2.5 years more diligent and disciplined about my studies and about my learnings and about my practices. The biggest thing that I'm coming around to and turning the corner on is really realizing that, and it's been a long process of understanding this, is that there's no one way. There's no one correct way to get to where we're all going. And I say that in a sense of, even when I was in school, I was in school and I was going to be pursuing becoming a high school English teacher to go back to my high school, and then wanting to then pursue something else because I didn't want to be constrained by the confinements of the educational system. Then I was like, well, what can I do where I can still teach, but it can be to a wider audience? And I came up with becoming a talk show host. And one of the most pertinent episodes, in the first episodes I wanted to do, was an episode of a panel of all major religions, and for us to not focus on our differences, but to focus on our commonalities and our similarities. And so this has been permeating more so for the past decade, but more so in the past couple years, and more so in the past month, as I recently have moved to Leucadia in Encinitas, which is actually 1.5 miles, 2 miles away from the Self-Realization Fellowship, which this person right here, Yogananda, was the person and the spiritual guide who brought yoga from the east to the west. And the fact that I am 2 miles away from where this spiritual being did so much meditation, so much practice, brought so many people together from all over the world, is mind-boggling to me. And what I really loved about it is that it's about the self-realization of all religions. And I think for someone who's in this vessel, inclusivity is so important to me because I've been a part of so many groups, in so many communities, but it's it's taking some time to find my group and my community, because I have the privilege of being able to have access to so many spaces. And so I'm coming here to this video to share with you all this one book called The Integral Life Practice, a 21st century blueprint for physical health, emotional balance, mental clarity, and spiritual awakening, which is interesting to me because it's the 21st century blueprint, right? And for many centuries already, we have been studying these practices in these guidelines and following these guides. And so I wanted to share this particular part, and really is the inspiration behind this video, because it really condenses what I feel like I'm on a journey of exploring and explaining, as someone who's in this vessel who has been excluded and included in many groups and communities. And so I just really appreciated this condensed and synthesized chapter to basically just kind of give a basis to this new series of on this path of spirituality, right? And realizing that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And so if I can use my voice and my presence as a signpost to point towards the truth, whatever that may be for you, that's what I'm going to be here to do. So so this is me really coming in here as someone who's taken some time and who's diligent about my study and diligent and disciplined about finding my truth. And so I just want to share what has made sense for me, and being in a place where I'm in a place where I've been asking myself, like, what can I contribute? What can I offer? What can I do? And for me, it's oftentimes been information and have been knowledge, and it being synthesized and explained in a very simple way. And even if it's as simply just by being someone that looks like you, and can relate to you and have walked a similar path as you. So expect that during this series, and and also my whole channel. If you look back on my past channel, that is basically what I've been doing, has been walking alongside folks and sharing my thoughts, my ideas, my learnings, and my journey. And so this is now, you're getting me a decade later, continuing to do the same thing, but constantly refining it and getting closer and closer to what speaks true to me, in hopes that it speaks true to you. So what I wanted to really read to all of you is talking about spirituality, right? And talking about what are the 6 things that this person, particularly this authors Ken Wilber, Terry Patton, Adam Leonard, and Marco Morelli have come up with in terms of the consistency amongst the major religions. So again, we opened up the video talking about religion and spirituality. So in this page, it's page 201 if you want to pick up the book yourself. It talks about spirituality. What are we talking about? And I asked that too. Like, I'm in California, y'all. I'm in Lucadia. I'm in Encinitas. There's lots of spiritual people around here, especially, again, being a couple miles away from the Self-Realization Fellowship, and having to ask ourselves, for folks who are into other practices, the New Age believers, the neo-pagans, the shamans, the Buddhists, the meditators and the mediators and the healers and the medicine folks, like, what are we talking about? So this page right here explains it. If we accept that something like spirit and spirituality are real and can be found across traditions down to the present day, we still must clarify what we really mean when we use those words. What do we mean? Much of the confusion in conversations about spirituality is a result of not defining our terms adequately. Like the word love. The words spirit and spirituality are used to mean so many things they often seem to mean nothing. But all of these words point directly at important realities. People along the diverse spectrum of perspectives regard spirituality as a central mental and emotional anchor, and it would be a shame to throw it away or dismiss it as cliche. So let's look more closely at some of the ways people commonly use the words spirit and spirituality. Number 1, spirit is often used interchangeably with words like God, consciousness, suchness, isness, the self, or the ever-present. Used in this way, spirit refers to the ultimate identity of all things, the source or ground of being. Number 2, sometimes it is used to mean the conscious energy of life. And in this sense, it is the interchangeable with words like life force, prana, ki, Holy Spirit, love light, God light, and divine energy. When I'm doing this, I'm meaning quotes and also the interchangeableness of it. And also, since I'll be going to the Philippines soon, I'm sure I'll be doing this a lot more often. In this context, spirit refers to the conscious current of being that moves and manifests all beings, phenomena, forces, and events. Number 3, sometimes spirituality is used to refer to an all-pervading, caring presence, the source of all care, love, and inspiration. More simply, it can be an attitude or a set of qualities including kindness, generosity, benevolence, equanimity, openness, compassion, and joyfulness. Number 4, sometimes spirituality is used to mean a line of development, as in spiritual development or spiritual growth or spiritual maturity. Number 5, sometimes spirituality is used to mean a high state of awareness that is usually extremely subtle, causal, and non-dual. And number 6, sometimes spirituality is used to mean the highest levels of development in any line. For example, when Michael Jordan played basketball at his most intense and brilliant, he manifested a fierce, masterful, and transcendent way of playing that seemed superhuman. Some people described it as spiritual. An artist who has reached the highest levels of aesthetic expression, a pianist who has cultivated extremely high musical intelligence, or a therapist who has developed the interpersonal mastery to say exactly the right thing at the right time, all might be described as spiritually gifted. Which definitions of spirituality do you most tend to use? Which one do you most resonate with? According to AQAL, which is a word, an acronym in here that I have yet to figure out yet. Maybe I can find it for all you. Maybe that would be helpful. Again, this is my friend's book, which I really appreciate, but I'm also like, oh, here it is. Okay. I'm really actually interested in this book. It's a very dense book, but I love it because it's for integration. So what I appreciate is after you do some foundational work, some information gathering and synthesizing and making sense of things, you want to eventually get to a point where you want to integrate it. So AQ all means all quadrants, all levels. Aqual is a theory of everything, a way of comprehending life and reality in very broad yet precise terms. Aqual is a map of consciousness, the cosmos with a K, and human development at every level and in every dimension that presents itself. Technically speaking, Aqual is a map of maps or meta theory that incorporates the core truths from hundreds of other theories. See, I love that. I already love that. I'm like, oh gosh, this book is so dense. I'm like, how can I read it all so quickly for all of you so I can share it with all of you? It says, it organizes the profound insights of the spiritual traditions, philosophy, modern science, developmental psychology, and many other disciplines into a coherent whole. Aqual accounts for the many perspectives that great thinkers, teachers, and researchers have brought to our understanding of self and the world. But it doesn't stop there, because Aqual is also intuitive. It describes the terrain of your own awareness. You don't need high-tech equipment or an advanced degree to enjoy the benefits of an Aqual-informed perspective. All you need is to bring a new kind of awareness to your lived experience. Love that already. So according to Aqual, as you might expect, every definition is true but partial, but it's enormously helpful to use all of these distinctions to clarify what we're actually talking about in any situation. Okay. So I hope that's helpful for you in terms of talking about spirituality. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. And right now, a lot of people, especially in California, are saying that they're spiritual. What does that exactly mean? So I just gave you 6 definitions based off of this book. Again, The Integral Life the integral life practice, a 21st century blueprint for physical health, emotional balance, mental clarity, and spiritual awakening. This is on page 201. So check it out at your local library, seeing if they have it. If not, request it. If not, purchase it, ideally from a used bookstore if they have it. It was written, I think, for me, I'm always interested in when things were written because it gives context as to where we're at. See, this was written in 2008. This is over a decade old. So I'm like, I still think it's very applicable. But 2008, I just graduated high school. So I even think now, post-pandemic, we need an updated version of it to some extent, personally. Personally, I think so. So again, this is page 201, spirituality. What are we talking about? So let me ask you this. Which definition resonated with you? If you say, oh, I'm a spiritual person, did you resonate with number 1, which is just a quick reminder? It's a spirit. Spirit is often used interchangeable with words like God, consciousness, suchness, ever present. Or is it 2, the conscious energy of life? 3, the all-pervading, caring presence, an attitude or set of qualities. Number 4, the line of development, such as spiritual development. Number 5, just a high state of awareness. Or number 6, the highest levels of development in any line. And the question that I'd want for you to answer in the comments is the same question that they asked us. Which definitions of spirituality do you most tend to use? So go ahead and leave that in the comments and let's have a discussion about what does spirituality mean to us. The next video I'm going to be recording, if you want to check out, is talking about the six truths based off of the definitions, not the definitions, but based off of the many religions that they have looked over. Again, particularly Christian, Buddhist, New Age believer, neo-pagan, shaman is some that they've listed in here. But I'm curious if we're spiritual beings having a human experience and you've defined the spirituality that makes most sense to you or that you tend to use most often. I'm curious if you find these 6 aspects of all of these practices to be true for you. So if you want to learn more about that, it will be in page 200, which is just the one right before this that we'll talk about. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Do the YouTube thing if you feel like it, and I will see you all in the next video. All right, bye now.